This meeting is now called to order. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Pavoni.
Here.
Mr. Corman. Mr. Prince.
Here.
Mr. Person.
Here.
Ms. Witchy.
Here.
Mr. McIrvin.
Here.
Ms. Perez.
Here.
Roll call, Mr. Mayor, one absent.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Pavoni.
I move that we excuse the absent council member.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Pavoni, second by Mr. Prince, that we excuse Councilmember Corman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. So, first thing on the agenda tonight, we're very fortunate to have Reagan Dunn, who is our King County Council member, represents a big part of Renton, and thanks for being here this evening, Reagan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the chance to come by, as I do every year, to all 9 cities that I have the privilege of representing, along with unincorporated King County, about 70,000 residents there in the district as well. So, as many of you know, I represent about half of Renton, roughly 50,000 residents, and then Bellevue, Newcastle, Kent, Covington, Black Diamond, Maple Valley, Enumclaw, up to Snoqualmie Pass, and large areas, large swaths of unincorporated King County. Just wanted to come and provide an update for you on some of the stuff we've been working on. A lot happening in King County right now, a lot happening in a variety of areas, and I just wanted to provide you with an update. We did pass our biennial budget last fall, so we won't have a major budget this year. A supplemental bill is moving forward, but we'll add some things and make some changes mid-year, but that's it. The biennial budget was an $11.4 billion package, with the general fund, as you know, which is sheriffs, prosecutors, sheriffs, the courts, a lot of the things you think of as core services, funded at about $1.6 billion. One of the big things that we were able to save working together as the council was the King County Sheriff's Office Marine Unit and also the Air Support Unit, the helicopters. It was slated to be eliminated in 2018. We were able to save that, and we're looking for critical partnerships to make sure that we continue that moving forward and looking to other counties in the region to help support what we're doing. We were able to save that largely as a result of grants. About 50% of the Marine unit is now being funded through the flood district because a substantial amount of the rescues that occur in King County do so on rivers, especially during high water events. So we were proud of that. Still a lot of work to be done. Right now, the short term looks pretty good in terms of the budget over the next year or so, but the long term, with the structural budget gap, as you all know, growing at just 1% per 747, doesn't look that good down the road, so we'll be watching that. As part of the budget, we focused a lot, I did personally, on youth, sports, and parks. Something I think is a worthy investment for the county. For example, some of the money that came in, $5,000 to the City of Renton Parks and Recreation Department, $5,000 to the Greater Renton Tukwila Youth Soccer Association, the Cascade Soccer Club, and also the Renton Little League all received $5,000. Some other money that came in from the budget specific to Renton, $175,000 for the Sunset Neighborhood Park Project, as you know, very important one. We were able to get at Mayor Law's suggestion, strong suggestion, we were able to get a donated Metro van to the nonprofit Cry Out organization, which we dedicated here just a couple of weeks ago. That's a great group. And Dave Updegrove and I were proud to join city leaders and Mayor Law just last week in presenting a $75,000 check to the City of Renton with Doug Baldwin, Seahawks star wide receiver, for the Family First Center plan for the Benson Hill area. And so that was nice to be able to make that contribution, and that thing seems to be taking off with getting legs all over the place, and I'm just really excited to see how that goes and where the groundbreaking is. I think you should be proud of that organization, and another great reason why it's so nice to have Seahawks here and someone like Doug Baldwin to lend his energy and enthusiasm along with Mayor Law and others here in the council to make that happen. So that's the budget. Switching gears to elections, the county's done a lot of work in creating ballot drop boxes so people can vote and vote Nearly all of the drop boxes are within 3 miles of where people live throughout King County. We added 43 new ballot drop box locations in the county. One new location is the Renton Highlands. It's at the King County Renton Public Health Center up in the Highlands there. And we're going to make sure that additional drop boxes are placed throughout the area. There's a lot throughout the district here, all the way in the crescent around the city, and of course in Seattle as well. So lots happening in elections, all very positive in terms of the progress we're making, come a long ways in the last 10 or 15 years and what we've done in elections. Solid waste, the King County Solid Waste Renton Transfer Station, you're all familiar with that one up there. It provides a lot of accessibility, not just to folks inside the city, but whole swath of sort of the East Renton Plateau, unincorporated King County, clear out to Maple Valley. A recent study by the King County Solid Waste Division found that over 97% of Renton self-haulers were surveyed, and they reported satisfaction with the current station, and 80% were very satisfied. So it's one of those services that people like very much. One of the challenges we're facing is the Houghton station is slated currently up in Kirkland to be eliminated. And if that happens, 90% of the traffic and haulage coming down will go to the Factoria transfer station. And as many of you know, the Factoria Boulevard is incredibly congested right now, and we're concerned about that. And my position has been, it's very hard to site these facilities, and so I'd really like to keep Houghton open until we really have an alternative in the north that doesn't compress traffic both down to Bellevue and Factoria and further south here to Renton as well. I know the city has taken positions on the Renton transfer station. I'd like to engage in a dialogue on how we can maybe satisfy both our goals of giving haulers a place to go without creating increased traffic in your region of the county as well. Metro Transit, lots happening here in the area of transit. Spent a lot of time working on it. 7 years as chair of the Regional Transit Committee. And what we know is that the region's going to grow by 30% by 2040, so just a little over 22 years from now. And we're really trying to plan ahead for that increased need for folks to get from their work to homes and home to work and to emergency services. We are seeing an average of 236 people moving to the Seattle area each day, according to a Puget Sound Regional Council study. So we got to be ready. And one of the things we were able to do in the biennial budget was to add 300 new hours of service across the county, much of it coming to this portion of the county. We're going to have more service on existing routes to reduce overcrowding and improve reliability. We're going to have additional transit police on those routes to ensure the safety of Metro, the drivers, the riders. As you know, we have had some real challenges in security on some of the buses in the past. Part of that will be adding camera-equipped buses on all routes. So there'll be security cameras on all routes as well. We're able to do that because of a healthy economy, so we hope that economy stays healthy. So in March of this year, 6 Renton routes received additional hours in support of these goals. Additional hours went to Route 101, which is Renton, Tukwila, and Seattle. Route 102, which is Renton, Fairwood, Seattle, and Tukwila. Route 143, which is Renton, Black Diamond, Maple Valley, and Seattle. Route 148, which is Renton and Fairwood. Route 153, which is Renton, Kent, Seattle, South Center, and Tukwila. And just this month, Route 169, which serves both Renton and Kent, will begin departing every 15 minutes at peak and midday compared to just every 30 minutes as it has been in the prior. So that's, again, Route 169. And in March 2018, just around the bend here, the 101 will begin departing every 15 minutes midday and every 15 minutes on trips from Seattle to Renton in the morning peak, both compared to 30 minutes as it was in the past. Metro has also applied for and expects to receive a Washington State Mobility Grant to further support improvements on Route 101 and 169. With respect to Route 153, again, which is Renton, Kent, Seattle, South Center, Tukwila, in March 2018, Route 153 will begin operating every hour midday on weekdays, whereas today it's only operating during the morning and evening peaks. So that's another improvement. Finally, the F line, which we're all familiar with, Renton Burien, Renton Landing, and SeaTac Tukwila Currently departs every 10 to 15 minutes during the day until 8 p.m. when it drops departing every 30 minutes. In March 2018, the F line is going to begin operating every 15 minutes until 10 p.m. So that's really good news, particularly for the landing and the new businesses that are generated there. Switching from Metro Transit to Sound Transit, I think we all agree that Renton didn't get what it needed or deserved to get from ST3, or most of us agree with that. And so just last week, Councilmember Updegrove and I joined together in encouraging Dow Constantine by letter to appoint Mayor Dennis Law to Sound Transit's board. So Mayor Fred Butler from Issaquah will be cycling off the board. I just think there could be no stronger voice, Mr. Mayor, and the need to have a direct representative from Renton, in addition to Dave Updegrove, who serves on the Sound Transit Board, to be there so that you get your fair share of your tax dollars
We appreciate that.
and your service. So we'll push on that, and I think there's a very good chance that'll happen, and hope it happens as well. King County Flood Control District, which is my other hat. As you know, I chair that district and have for quite a while now. We designed to protect lives, homes, businesses, and property. Since the creation of the district 9 years ago, we put $500 million in critical infrastructure programs in place for the purpose of protecting lives, homes, and property. And we're proud of that. We've had 9 clean audits from the state auditor since its beginning. There is no large flood control district in the United States that has a better overhead to capital ratio than the King County Flood Control District. Fully 94% of the dollars we levy go on the ground to projects and make improvements. It's very low overhead, largely because we haven't, at least at this point, chosen to bond, so we don't have a huge debt service. So we're putting that money on the ground to programs, and we're starting to see some improvements. As you know, Mayor Law and the council supported the work on the Cedar River coming right through the city, and the gravel sedimentation. It was threatening a lot of business, and most notably the Boeing 737 plant here. And so we were able to secure quite quickly over $13 million for the overall project, and that was, as you know, 120,000 cubic yards of gravel and sediment that were removed nearly at William Street Bridge, and natural vegetation was replanted, and I had a chance to tour that with your Public Works Director and really enjoyed the chance to see that. Some other things on the horizon. We've all seen what happened in Orrville, the catastrophic dam failure that could have killed an awful lot of people, and that's a lesson for us. And so recently, Councilmember Updegrove and I sponsored legislation to address our gaps in existing emergency flood evacuation plans and to recommend steps to fill those gaps. We do have evacuation routes. We do have shelter facilities that are there in case of either a dam failure, a partial dam failure, a major flood event, 100-plus year flood event where the spillways open, or God forbid, any kind of a breach in the levee, which is essentially what happened. That was the biggest of the problems down in Houston. And so we're working very hard to get that study, fill the gaps, and promote all of that information out to the public in a way that they can very quickly access where their evacuation route would be, and then how to get out and to the shelter location should we have a major problem. So Water and Land Resources Division at King County and our Emergency Management Division are working on an emergency evacuation plan for 82 dams across the county, but most notably the big four: Howard Hanson Dam, the Chester Morris Lake Reservoir, Mud Mountain Dam up along the Tolt River, Tolt Reservoir as well. So our emergency plans are out of date, and only emergency action plans, we call them, are out of date, and only 18 of the DAN EAPs, emergency action plans, have been reviewed within the last year, and 46 EAPs have not been revisited in the last 5 years. So that's a concern for us. This came back in a report just today I got a briefing on. Only 5 of the emergency action plans analyzed had the tabletop exercise information located during the EAP review. And 60 of those emergency action plans have not had inundation mapping created or been updated in the last 5 years. So we got a lot of work to do. Our mass care and shelter capabilities are not fully defined at this time, and they need to be. And most jurisdictions and stakeholders in King County do not have a comprehensive inventory of the mass care and shelter capabilities. So we're working to get that information out. There's no cohesive or sustained dam safety education program countywide. We're going to try and fix that. And as you know, dam failure in King County could require the evacuation as many as 25,000 residents. So jurisdictions and county residents just aren't aware of the potential risk nor the solution should that happen. So the Flood Control District is embarking on a major and I think very important piece of legislation, and we'll keep all of the cities that are in floodplains, as Renton is, up to speed on all of that, because it's important, very important to keep our public safe. East Side Rail Corridor, as I'm sure many of you know, the county is planning 16.7 miles of a new regional trail that's going to connect east side cities, including Renton, Kirkland, Woodinville, and Redmond. The project is currently called East Side Rail Corridor, and I serve on the leadership group. It's going to also provide new opportunities for non-motorized recreation and transportation. And so this fall, King County Parks is going to begin removing rails and portions of the East Side Rail Corridor, and an interim gravel trail will be opened along that. As part of that, a 4-mile-long segment from Gene Coulon Park in Renton to Newcastle Beach Park in Bellevue will also open, connecting with the existing Lake Washington Loop Trail. So that's really going to be nice progress there, and I think that's set up, the groundbreaking on that is in mid-October. 1-mile segment's also going to open in Bellevue between the Cross Kirkland corridor and the new Spring District in the Bellred area. And this section will include a connection to the 520 trail by next spring. So we're really moving quickly on that. And it's going to be something that I think will connect a lot of folks. REI headquarters is being placed in Bellevue. Fully 25% of their employees bike to work. And a lot of them about half live south of Interstate 90. And so that's going to be a nice corridor for those who choose not to fight that commute up 405. So those are the major highlights I wanted to go over, just to update you on things that are happening. Lots happening here with Renton and with King County. And if the mayor would permit, I'd be delighted to take questions.
Thank you very much, Reagan. Any questions or comments from council? Yes, Mr. Person.
How many cities do you represent again?
9.
Which is the best?
Councilmember Person, Renton's ahead of the curve.
Great answer. Great answer. Yes, Ms. Perez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much, council member, for being here. Always a pleasure, and definitely I want to appreciate your efforts. And in the East Side Corridor, I want to thank you for the efforts that you have put there to make sure that Renton receives their fair share and we have the same quality that the other East Side city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Perez. I appreciate those kind words.
Any other comments? Well, sir, thank you very much for being here this evening. We really appreciate it. I do want to say there are a lot of programs that you've been very supportive of over the years, which we really appreciate. I do have to say that, close to our heart is the Sunset Park and the help that you've provided up there, and the Family First Community Center, which is going to change the lives of so many kids and families in the Cascade Benson community. And having your support and Dave Up the Grove support is really appreciated. And I know we've already talked that I'm going to put a full court press on you for the next round of funding, but
Please do.
We do appreciate very much your support. And I have to say, excuse me, the support that you're providing us on transit-related issues, which is a real high priority for us, as well as the protection of the rivers, has been really key, and we've really appreciated that very much. And lastly, I want to thank Tom, who's in the back of the room, was your staff member, who has been a tremendous asset also to our staff. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the kind words. And yes, Tom Goff is actually my chief of staff, but he's really my boss. He tells me
we
what
understand
to do.
that.
So surround myself with good people. Thanks. It's a great privilege to represent Renton.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Angie, we're going to move on to a public meeting.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. My name is Angie Mathias, here with you to present. I work in the Department of Community and Economic Development. So this evening we have a proposed annexation called Wolf Woods that I'm here to talk about. So this is the 10% petition meeting. So the petitioner, the property owner, has submitted a 10% petition, which means that it represents 10% of the assessed value of the entirety of the proposed annexation area. And we're here tonight to meet with that petitioner. That's just the second step in this whole process. If you authorize the circulation of the 60% petition this evening, then the petitioner could go and try to gather the necessary signatures to get that 60% of the assessed value of the annexation area. And then you can see the rest of the steps. We would then, after that, have a formal public hearing. This is just a public meeting with the petitioner this evening. So the purpose is for, we're required to hold this meeting by state law for you all to decide whether you're going to accept, reject, or geographically modify the proposed annexation. If you accept it, then you could authorize that circulation of the 60% direct petition to annex, as we talked about on the last slide. So this annexation area is sort of in the northeastern portion of the city, but still in the East Plateau community planning area. So again, the eastern area, it's about 8 acres in size. It's single-family use and vacant land. The northern boundary is approximately at Northeast 20th Street, if that was to be extended. The rest of the boundaries are parcel lines, but the east parcel line is near Lyons Avenue Northeast, and the west is near Kitsap Place Northeast, just to give you some context. And here you can see the annexation area, the aerial, and you can see some of that vacant land and the built-out land. Existing conditions, we always look at the topography to see if there's steep slopes. Steep slopes meaning something that would be protected by our critical areas. That's triggered when they are greater than 40%. And so it's a little difficult to see. Orange is here, so those are just not yet 40%. Red is not on this within the area. You can see some of them just outside the annexation area. That's red. Contrast is a little difficult to see on this slide. We always look at streams and wetlands. There is a stream that runs through the annexation area. It's called Greens Stream. It is a type NS stream, which means that it does not contain fish. It's a seasonal flow. And there's also some wetlands that are about 200 feet to the southwest, to the south of it. You can see those wetlands here. So public services, there would be no change to any public services if this area were to annex to the city. It is currently served by Renton Regional Fire Authority. It's currently served by Water District 90 and Renton Sewer, and the school district is Issaquah School District. Again, none of that would change if the area annexed. Currently, in the county, they are designated with urban residential medium density designation for their land use designation, which allows for a range between 4 and 12 dwelling units per acre, and the county has zoned this with R4 zoning. The Renton land use designation, the contrast on that is terrible, I apologize for that, is residential low density, and so that allows for a range between resource conservation, or RC, up to R4. So this area actually has been pre-zoned, but it was pre-zoned in 1997, and that portion that is dotted on this map was zoned R5. The portion that is hatched was zoned R1. We no longer have an R5 zone, so if this annexation were to proceed with being submitted to the 60% and then went to have a public hearing, we would also need to zone it at the same time. So that would follow the same process along with the annexation. And so we would have that first public hearing in the matter of zoning at the same time. We would do those concurrently that same evening. So we always look at our annexation policies. Our comprehensive plan guides those. It has a goal that says that we promote annexation where and when it's in our best interest. We have 2 policies related to annexations. One says that we should support annexations where infrastructure and services allow for urban densities, or where it would consolidate service or facilitate efficient delivery of services, and that we always consider the fiscal impacts of those proposed annexations. Boundary Review Board policies, we always look at those. They seek to use physical boundaries, and these are, parcel lines are considered a physical boundary to prevent abnormally irregular boundaries. It's pretty much a rectangle. To create or preserve logical service areas. These are all previously agreed to and are unchanged, and then that it be to an urban area, and Renton is an urban city. So the fiscal analysis, current conditions, there are 5 dwelling units, and we estimate there are approximately 11 residents living in those 5 dwelling units. Future conditions that estimated there's capacity for an additional approximately 8 dwellings, and that would mean an additional 18 residents. We always assume that costs increase approximately 3.3% annually, but revenue only increases 2.5% annually, and that's limited to sales tax, utility tax, and the franchise fee. So the operating fund existing revenues are about $13,000 with costs at about $10,000. Year 10, if that development were to occur, we would assume that revenues would be about $37,000 with costs being at about $35,000. To the capital and enterprise funds, revenues existing would be about $2,100 and costs about $1,100. And again, if the area were to fully build out with those additional 8 dwelling units as assumed, then year 10 revenues would be about $4,700 and costs at about $3,700. Comments, we always circulate these proposed annexations to city staff for their review to see if they have any concerns or comments. Those functions reviewed had no comments and no concern. They had comments, but they had no concerns. And it all indicated that it represented a logical extension of the service they already provide. In conclusion, the best interest and general welfare of the city are served by this annexation. It's a logical extension of our services. It meets our adopted annexation policies, and it is consistent with the Boundary Review Board criteria. The administration recommends that the council authorize circulation of a 60% direct petition specifying that property owners accept the city's zoning and they assume their proportional share of the city's bonded indebtedness.
Thank you, Angie. Any questions from council? Do we have any correspondence?
No, we do not.
Okay. This is a public meeting. We have several people signed up to address the council. When I call your name, please come to the podium, give your name and city of residence for the record, and you have 5 minutes. First is Claudia Donnelly.
Good evening, City Council members. Thank you for holding this public hearing regarding the above annexation attempt. No matter what I say, you will authorize the petitioners to collect signatures for the 60% petition. I am neutral on this position. All I want to do is to protect my property and May Creek. For the record, my name and address is Claudia Donnelly, 10415 147th Avenue Southeast, Renton. This is north of Bev Wolf's property and east of Sue Wolf's property. So I have a good reason for being here tonight. Before I start, I would like to ask Ms. Mathias a question about state law regarding annexations, if I may. RCW 3513 says that notices of this attempt shall be posted in 3 public places within the territory proposed for the annexation. Yet I never saw signs posted, nor did we, my husband and I, receive official notice from Renton that this was even happening. Is this because of the ban that Mr. Vincent put on me, or Mayor Law concurred with what that said that you don't have to answer my questions?
Angie, if you don't know the answer, that's fine. We can get back to her.
No, I'm happy to answer the question. This is as I stated, a meeting with the petitioner. It's not a public hearing, it's a public meeting. If they do submit the 60% direct petition, then a public hearing would be held, and the clerk's office will post in at least 3 places. Oftentimes they post in more, and then that's when we official mail to the people within the surrounding property owners. So you would receive notice at that point in time for
Okay,
official
thank you.
public hearing.
I have lived in my house since 1987. Since that time, I have seen many logging trucks either parked in Mrs. Wolf's yard or coming out of Southeast 105th, full of trees cut from this property. I was told that these trees were, quote, dangerous trees. I am here to protect my property and May Creek from development damage from this property. How many of you remember the Oso landslide? Now there is reference to the steep slopes on this property. Once the trees are gone, there will be no place for the surface water to go except into my yard and then down to May Creek. A King County Willard engineer once told me that not all water can be collected in the detention pond, and the detention pond vault has yet to be built. Willard staff also told me that once development is on the wall, that someone will have to do an EIS or other report to see what possible side effects will happen to my yard and property and people who live downstream of Green Stream on May Creek. Will Renton officials make that happen? I don't know. Here's a small timeline of what's happened in that area. 1987, my husband and I buy our home. 1989, Charles Lux gets a $50 permit from DNR to clear cut the property where Windstone is now located. 1990, we start getting muddy water, leaves, sediment, etc. This lasts until 1987. I would like to show my pictures at the end of this. I believe Councilman Corman, who's not here, and Councilman Person may have seen some of these before, especially when Windstone annexed to Renton. 1998, the late Richard Wolf changed the stream course to help stop the flooding on our property. He needed a permit but didn't have one that I know of, and King County screwed up by not making him close the channel. We had a small waterfall eroding the bank. 2001, Sue Clark, Willard staff engineer, told us to put cement blocks and rocks into the stream to dissipate the force of the water. We do it, and now the rocks can't be seen because of the sediment covering them up. We have sediment clogging the stream on our property, but King County doesn't want to help us. Will Renton? What will all this water and sediment do to my yard and property and May Creek? August 2004, Windstone Detention Pond broke, sending yellow muddy water to May Creek. December 2004, more yellow water coming down May Creek. Renton building inspector was on site but wouldn't stop it. I got 4 samples and drove to DOE in Bellevue. Please help me protect my property. Like I said, I'd like to show you some pictures that I've had to experience. In the report you got a couple of weeks ago, it says that there's sheet flow. This is sheet flow that occurred in February in 1996. It is over the current driveway of where Sue Wolf uses to go up to her house. This is the type of flow I had on my property for 7 years. Property line is back here and along the side here. And in the report that I saw, or I have, it says that there are other people along 147th that have had drainage complaints, and I'm one of them. Here's another picture that shows my lake. Here's some of the damage that my property in the back or the side experienced. 7 years worth. This is a neighbor to the north, and again you can see the water going underneath this outbuilding. This is some of the damage along the fence that we had it there at the time. My husband is an engineer and was able to determine that the water in this portion of the yard was about 18 inches deep. The stream, before we bought it in the 1970s, went straight across our property. The owner, the person who lived in this house, talked to the person who owned my house, and he wanted a duck pond. So he changed the stream course, again without having a permit. County came out and said, no, 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 you can't do that, but they didn't make him change it back.
Okay, excuse me, Ms. Donnelly, your 5 minutes is up. Council, did you want a lot more time, or do you know how much more time you need?
Just a couple more, and I'll go through them quickly.
Is that, okay, go ahead.
This is some of the damage that we had. We had sandbars every time the water went down. We just let Mother Nature take over. This is more pooling, and you can see down here a fern. We planted ferns. I talked to Larry Fisher at Fish and Wildlife, and he told me to plant ferns to keep the bank from eroding. We did, but then the following year, we had more floods, so the plants would wash away. This picture shows the stream that Mr. Wolf created to help us, and you can see there's water in it. This is where the waterfall was. It has since dried up. This is the sediment that has accumulated at the bottom of it. This shows the waterfall in action right here, and I've given pictures so you can look at these later. This is more of the erosion that's occurred, it's undercutting taking place. And again, this is at the bottom of where the waterfall used to be. And then last February, we had some of those Hawaiian Expresses coming through, and the water flooding has started up again. This was in February of 2017, and if you look real carefully, this is a fence post. The water was at the top of the bank.
Okay, Ms. Donnelly, you have to wrap it up.
Okay, well, you can see the rest of the pictures that I handed in to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next is Susan Wolf.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for having us, and appreciate you listening to this just first step in our annexation. I own one of the houses that is next to the long strip of property. It is a house that is across the creek from Miss Donnelly. And fortunately, King County had a big grant that finally came through so they could put a new culvert under my driveway, which really has helped the flow, and it has alleviated all of the flooding on my side, and on the other almost 500 feet on my mom's property of the creek. So we have over 500 feet of this green creek that is seasonal. It may be after today, it might have a little trickle of water, but it has been dry since May. So the good news is, from my perspective, a lot of the flow has really improved, and I haven't seen any of the flooding that she showed pictures of from the 90s, which it's true that it did used to really flood and destroyed a lot of things. We are currently, hoping to annex to the city of Renton, and appreciate your seeing, and listening to this process. And if I think it'll be a benefit to all of us. Used to be the county and the city were so much different, and now I just think it's a better fit to be able to join in. And if there's any questions on, concerns about the creek, as far as if anybody was to want to have more information, we also have pictures, and you're welcome to ask questions about that as well. But I feel like the county has taken some steps, and the big culvert made a huge difference. If we didn't have that this last winter, we would have been flooded on both sides. So fortunately, we did have that. So appreciate you listening to our presentation, and hopefully we can get on to the next step.
You bet. Thank you. Bev Wolf, did you? Oh, she said it for you. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Council, what's your wish?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Prince.
I authorize the circulation of 60%.
That's
We gotta close the
Oh,
public
close the
hearing.
public hearing. God, well, like to close the public hearing,
Public meeting.
public meeting. Like to close the public
Second.
meeting.
It's been moved by Mr. Prince, second by Mr. Pavoni, that we close the public meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Prince.
Yes, I'd like to authorize circulation of a 60% direct petition to annex, specifying that property owners accept city zoning and assume their proportional share of the city's existing bonded indebtedness. Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Prince, seconded by Mr. Pavoni, that council authorize circulation of the 60% direct petition. Any questions or discussion?
I have one question.
Yes,
I'm
Ms.
just trying to
Litchie.
get my bearings on the map, and I'm looking at the one with all the different house numbers. So I understand that Miss Donnelly's house is 10415, and then I see 14702. Does that belong to?
That's my house.
So your house is outside of the annexation?
Miss Donovan's house is outside the annexation.
Okay, so your mom doesn't want to be annexed, but you're annexing your house?
Right.
Which is
Mine is on that side of the.
10403?
Yes.
Got it. I just wanted some clarification on that. That is
Okay.
all.
Any other questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Angie.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to administrative report, Mr. Covington.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, a couple of items for the public's interest and also your information as well. First, I want to let the public know that this week, we are conducting I mentioned this last week as well, conducting our 2017 residential survey. Last week, we started with some web-based random sampling, and this week, we're actually conducting the telephone portion of the survey. So random households within the city limits have been, will be receiving an invitation from Mayor Dennis Law to participate in our survey. Invitations were sent by email and regular mail and contain a link to the web-based survey. I would add that if you get something in the mail and it looks, you think maybe it's suspicious or whatever, please call us. We will let you know if in fact it's a legitimate invitation or not. We'll be conducting this survey. We do it every couple of years. It's to really determine how our services are being received by residents and determine service gaps. We would appreciate your participation if in fact you're contacted. We also are making our language line available to meet the needs of those residents that might need assistance in a language other than English. I wanted also to announce that, remind people that this Friday and Saturday we'll be having our second annual Multicultural Festival. Friday evening from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. at Carco Theater, and Saturday from 3 to 7 at our Pavilion Event Center and Piazza Park. Really hope folks will make an effort to come out. We think it'll be a great event for you and your family. I also wanted to announce on September 28th, we will be holding our second annual Unity March. This is an event put together by our Renton African American Pastors Association or pastoral group and the city to demonstrate our desire and hope that folks can work together. We believe we can work together more efficiently than we can if we work against each other. And so we had a great success last year in our first Unity March. We're hoping that more folks will turn out. This will be from 3 to 4:30 p.m. We'll begin at the Piazza Park and then have a March for Unity. So stay tuned for more information on that. Tomorrow is the second to last farmers market, so encourage folks to get down to the piazza from 3 to 7 and partake of the fruits and vegetables that'll be there, as well as other vendor goods that'll be on hand. This Thursday, our solid waste utility is kicking off its free eco-film series. This is an effort to try to help educate us on plastics and their impact on the waste stream. We've got some films that we'll be showing, as well as other activities to help people understand better the impact and ways in which they can reduce the waste stream. That will be at 6 p.m. at Carco Theater, 1717 Maple Valley Highway. Reminder again, our Senior Activity Center remains closed for annual maintenance until September 25th. We are, again, holding next Monday a open house on our Bicycle and Trails Master Plan. Love to have public input on that, 5 to 8 p.m. at our Renton Community Center. And so folks can do that. And then, again, as I mentioned last week, we historically have had a clean sweep program that's consisted of a single date where everybody could participate. With our new solid waste contract, this allows residents to select the date that would be most convenient for you. So if you pick a date when you really want to do a significant cleaning of yard waste or garbage or other things, you can call Republic Services at 206-777-6440, schedule a date, and they will make available extra garbage capacity for you on that date. In addition to our community survey, our Community Services Department is asking for your comment on customer service satisfaction, and so you can pick up a hard copy at our community center here at City Hall or our Highlands Neighborhood Center. You can also get on our website and provide feedback and input. And then we have a number of traffic activities going on, construction activities and other things. Just to urge you to be cautious. The state is actively working on Talbot Road South and closing that, as well as on the SR 167 at night. So please be aware of that. And then there are a number of other projects in and around town. That is all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Covington. I wanted to mention on traffic, I know a number of you have received emails from concerned citizens, particularly off of the Maple Valley Highway and going up to 156th. Then we've had ongoing issues with a lot of diversion traffic that is just snagging a lot of the residents into their neighborhoods. We've had speeding issues. We've had a lot of enforcement. I'm going to have a meeting with transportation and police next week to do some brainstorming on what we might try to do to provide some assistance to those neighborhoods. So we'll give you a full report after that. Okay, we don't have anybody sign up for audience comments, so moving on to the consent agenda. We have 5 items for council consideration. Are there any items a council member would like pulled for discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Pavoni.
I move the council concur with the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Pavoni, second by Mr. Prince, that council concur with the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Moving on to unfinished business, Mr. Pavoni.
No unfinished, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Prince.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Person.
No unfinished business.
Mr. Person, this has got to be the first week
It
in
is
a
the
long
first.
time.
I think this is the first time none of us have any unfinished business, and so
Oh,
I don't
Ms.
have any either.
Witchy, no. Mr. McIrvin?
No unfinished business.
Okay, and Ms. Perez?
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so then we'll move on to new business, because I know you have some new business. Mr. Pavoni?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to announce, Committee of the Whole will have a meeting on Monday, September 25th. We're going to start at 5 p.m. We have 2 items to discuss. The first is civil disobedience training. The second one will be the head tax / B&O tax briefing. And then I'd also like to point out that this weekend, on Friday, I got an opportunity to go down to an event in downtown Renton, and it was a pop-up event put on between the Downtown Partnership and the city staff, and it was fantastic. It was 5 different little individual parklets that were built by different groups in the city area. And then there was also a pop-up, kind of a little
Urban market.
yeah, urban market is the right term. There on the corner of 3rd and Main, and it was a fantastic event. I didn't get a chance to be there on Saturday, but Friday night it was really good. It was very active in downtown, and it was another very successful event put on. So
That's great, that's really
that
good
is
to
all,
hear.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Let's see, Mr. Prince.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Person.
Well, Mr. Mayor, you can't get by me too many times.
That's right.
Actually, first of all, I want to announce for Randy Corman, the public safety meeting next week at Monday at 4 p.m. The first part of it is going to be in the council conference room with 2 topics. They're Cry Wolf, false alarm vendor briefing, and 2 is emerging issues. And number 3, I think, is more for the whole council. The police department will have their new crime scene van that we paid, I think, $187,000 for in the lobby level of City Hall for us to take a view of it. There will be no business conducted. It's just merely a tour, and I'm sure if anybody happens to be coming by, they're more than welcome to take a tour of it because it will be a public event. And then at 3 p.m., the Finance Committee will meet in the council conference room, and we'll be talking airport staffing reorganization, 2017 sidewalk rehab project bid award, and vouchers and emerging issues and revenue streams. And then, Mr. Mayor, I just want to verify that the Planning Commission, as I understand it, is going to have a public meeting on the 20th of September to discuss moving the Cedar River Trail, a plan to move the Cedar River Trail from the river level up onto the street, so, for those people. And I think, am I right on that?
Let's see,
Yes, I am, I think. So I just
is that
want to
the
be sure.
20th? Okay, 6 PM.
6 PM here in the council chambers?
Yes.
I would just add that it is a part of the Civic Core plan, and it is just that, a plan, so there are no imminent
Jeff, I was going to
plans.
get
It
to
just,
that.
oh, okay, again, in case people are thinking if they go out and jog on Friday, they won't know where to go. It's not going to happen for years.
Well, there's no funding, and it hasn't come out of the planning commission yet.
No, it's a ways before the council will
But so
be
it hasn't
making a decision.
reached the council yet, but I know there was some concern in the public. We got a couple emails on it, and I just want to be sure, was my goal, is to ensure that, no, there's no plan to do it. It's a chance for the public to weigh in early before it ever gets anywhere, whatever traction or doesn't. So I want to be sure everybody says, well, we didn't know about it. Well, I think there's been notices put out, but just in case.
Yeah, some of the complaints were very legitimate. We didn't think about the fact that there are people from all over Renton that use the trail. And so we have posted the trail now to give them notifications of the upcoming meetings, so.
So anyway, that,
Okay.
just, and these, and we're not going to condemn anybody's property. I can, just want to be sure of that. And then, Mr. Mayor, again, the mayor and I had the opportunity on Saturday to barbecue for the employees of our regional jail, and we served about 300 people. And I've never seen a more appreciative bunch of people. And they were all so nice and professional, and the awards that they were passing out, I mean, they passed out, they were going to pass out several awards for actually people
Life-saving.
saving lives in the jail. So it was really a nice event, and the administration from SCORE did a really good job. Mayor and I slaved with Ken Taylor, one of our citizens, over a barbecue that didn't work quite right, so we served food about 45
We had
minutes late.
4 hours of fun.
But it was intriguing, and it was fun, but it was rewarding because of the employees. But that also gave me the opportunity to bring the barbecue back to the city shops. And Vicki my wife, was with me, and both of us were amazed at the number of refrigerators and washing machines and stuff that our staff has picked up and put in a place up there. They got them off the city streets. And the next thing to it was grocery carts. I can't believe the number of grocery carts that we have confiscated off the streets. I mean, they're doing a fantastic job. And I just want to say thank you to the people. That's a thankless job.
Yeah.
And nobody realizes that we're doing it. So those people did a really great job. And then maybe somewhere along the line, Mayor, you can let us know what's happening with the shopping cart.
We'll be happy to do that. Actually, a lot of these have been sitting there for quite some time, and they're beyond the time of where we can dispose of them if we choose to. The stores haven't picked them up yet. But we'll give you an updated report. It's really heartwarming that the number of carts we're picking up continues to go down. So all of the stores have taken a much more aggressive, proactive approach to managing their own carts.
If I were a Target store in Renton, I'd most likely be wanting to get my carts back, because I think those are really expensive, and that looked like the biggest bunch of them.
Yeah, that's right.
So, anyway, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. President, were you going to say something, or? Oh, okay. Ms. Witchy?
I don't have any new business either, but I did want to mention that this Saturday, I had the honor of attending the Ravishing Women event. And at this event, and this is a regional event where they crown the Miss India Washington and the Miss Asia Washington. And previously, this had been held in Redmond and Bellevue, and this was the first year we held it in Renton. And it was a great crowd, and we're just so excited to have them in town. And it was a nice opportunity to show off our city, especially this weekend when we had so much going on. So I just wanted to say that it was a great event, and it was nice to have them here, and we hope they come back.
That's great, and thank you for representing the city. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. McIrvin?
No new business.
Okay, Ms. Perez?
No new business, Mr. Mayor, but
Okay.
I just wanted to add a little bit of what President Pavone just mentioned about how wonderful was the pop-up and the Renton Comic Con downtown this weekend. It was amazing to see all these people dress up on the streets of downtown. It was a family event, 100%. Actually, Councilmember Corman was there with his whole family, dressed up, and it was really fun to watch them walking on the streets. And this event combined with the pop-up parklets, which I want to congratulate and thank all the business organizations and the community members that decided to participate, because all of them were beautiful. I mean, beautiful, a lot of work. And the urban market, I want to thank all the members of the city center, and here we have one, Diana Dobson, thank you. And thank you all your family also for putting so much energy to put together the urban market, as well as, I cannot even mention the Birthday Dreams, the Renton Municipal Art members. All of them were really active this weekend and working really, really hard. So thank you very much to everybody.
Okay. What's the wish of the council?
Move we adjourn?
Second.
So moved by Mr. Prince, second by Ms. Witchy, that we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.